There are endings that arrive with noise, with arguments across kitchen tables, with doors slammed hard enough to shake the frames, with words said at a volume designed to make sure everyone in the building understands what is happening. And then there are endings like Naomi's. Naomi Caldwell signed the divorce papers on a Tuesday morning in October in a conference room on the 14th floor of a law office in Dallas, Texas. She signed all 11 pages. She read each one before she signed it, not because she had not read them before. She had read the same document 3 times in the previous week, alone at her desk. With the careful attention she brought to every contract that crossed her hands, but because she believed that the things you put your name to deserve to be read. She signed the last page. She capped the pen. She placed it on the table with the same precision with which she had picked it up. Across the table, her mother-in-law, Whitmore, looked at her and said, "You should have known this family was not built for someone like you." She said it quietly, the way you say something you've been holding for a long time and have finally decided requires no further packaging. Naomi looked at her for exactly 3 seconds. Then she stood, lifted her bag from the back of the chair, and walked out of the conference room without looking back. On the street below, 14 floors down, her car was waiting. She got in. She gave the driver an address that was not her home and not the office. It was the address of a private airfield 12 miles outside of Dallas. The Whitmore family would not understand why for another 18 hours. Naomi had grown up in Memphis, Tennessee, the youngest of 3 daughters of a Delta Airlines ground crew supervisor named Walter Caldwell and a woman named Evelyn, who ran the family's household with the organizational precision of someone who had never been given enough resources, but had never let that be a reason to produce less than excellent results. Naomi had grown up watching her mother make order out of limitation. She had decided, early and quietly, that she would one day make order out of abundance instead. She had studied aerospace engineering at Howard University. She had worked for 5 years at a regional carrier out of Houston, learning every system from the inside. At 31, she had taken everything she had saved, everything she had borrowed from her father's retirement account with a signed repayment schedule that she honored to the dollar, and she had founded Skyward Holdings, a private aviation company that began with 2 leased aircraft and a client list she had built by showing up, being excellent, and never overpromising. By the time she was 38, Skyward Holdings operated a fleet of 41 aircraft, served corporate clients across 22 states, and was valued at $1.2 billion. She had met Trevor Whitmore at a charity gala in Dallas when she was 34. He was the kind of man who moved through a room like he had been expected. Old Dallas money, the 3rd generation of a real estate family that had built its name on commercial properties across the Southwest. He was charming in the way of men who have always had the room and know how to use it. She had liked him genuinely. She had believed for a while that he liked her the same way. Lorraine Whitmore had never approved of Naomi. She had communicated this not through direct confrontation, but through the particular language of exclusion that old money families speak fluently. The seating arrangements at family dinners that placed Naomi slightly outside the center. The conversations that started before she arrived and concluded the moment she sat down. The references to the family's history and legacy that were always spoken as though Naomi were a guest who happened to be present rather than a woman who had married into the family 4 years prior. Trevor had observed all of it. He had said nothing useful. In the final year of the marriage, Lorraine's pressure had become less subtle. She had spoken to Trevor directly, repeatedly, about the family's direction and what it required of the woman beside him. She had used words like legacy and alignment and suitability. Trevor had listened. He had gone home and been quieter than usual. He had stopped arguing with his mother at family dinners. He had started, in small and then larger ways, to stop arguing on Naomi's behalf. Naomi had watched this happen the way you watch something you have already anticipated. She had not asked him to choose differently. She had not made speeches about what she deserved or what she brought to the marriage or what it meant that he kept choosing the people who did not love her over the person who did. She had called her attorney. She had called her CFO. She had called Arthur Pembroke. Every year on their anniversary, Naomi had handwritten Trevor a letter, not a card, a letter, on her personal stationery, left on his desk before he woke up. She had done it every year since the first one, for letters total. In the final year of their marriage, she had written the 5th one. It was the most honest of all of them, the one where she said everything she had been too composed to say out loud. She did not leave it for him. She folded it. She put it in the inside pocket of her bag. She still had it. The private airfield outside Dallas was called Meridian Executive Air Park. Naomi had used it for 5 years as a Dallas hub for Skyward Holdings Southwestern operations. She knew every person who worked there by name. when her car pulled through the gate that Tuesday morning. The ground crew waved her through without a call. They knew her car. They knew her schedule. They had prepped the jet at 6 that morning per her standing instructions. It was a Gulfstream G700. Naomi had purchased outright 2 years prior. It seated 19. It had a range of 7,500 miles. It had her company's logo on the tail in a deep navy and gold that her design team had spent 3 weeks perfecting. She boarded without ceremony. She sat in the forward cabin seat. She always used the one with the best view of the wing. She opened her laptop. She had 3 meetings before landing. The jet lifted off the Dallas runway at 11:47 in the morning. She did not look back at the city. In his office on the 9th floor of the Whitmore family's real estate headquarters, Arthur Pembroke was working through the quarterly collateral review when he found it. Arthur had been the Whitmore family's estate and corporate attorney for 29 years. He had handled every significant transaction the family had made in that time. He was thorough and methodical, and he had a particular professional habit of verifying structural documents against their original source instruments every quarter, a habit that most clients found unnecessary and that had saved the Whitmore family from 2 significant legal problems in the past decade. On this particular Tuesday afternoon, the habit saved them from nothing. It simply showed him what was true. The Whitmore family's real estate expansion over the past 4 years had been financed through a series of commercial loans secured against a portfolio of collateral that included, listed clearly on page 47 of the master loan agreement, a silent collateral instrument backed by the operating assets of Skyward Holdings, LLC, Naomi's company. Arthur read the page 3 times. He pulled the original loan agreements. He pulled the collateral registration documents. He pulled the instrument of assignment that had been signed 4 years ago when the Whitmore's bank had required additional collateral security for the Meridian Street acquisition, their largest and most leveraged project. The instrument was clear. Skyward Holdings' operating assets had been used as silent collateral. The bank had accepted it. The loans had been approved on the strength of it. And that morning, per formal notice filed by Skyward Holdings' legal team at 9 o'clock, the collateral assignment had been withdrawn, effective immediately, per the terms of the instrument, which allowed for withdrawal upon the dissolution of the marital relationship between Naomi Caldwell and Trevor Whitmore. She had built that clause into the instrument 4 years ago. Arthur sat in his chair for a very long time. Then he called Trevor. Trevor answered on the second ring. He was at the family estate in Highland Park. The family had gathered for lunch. There was wine open. Lorraine had said something that made the table laugh. Arthur said, "Trevor, I need you to come to the office. Today." Trevor said, "It's Tuesday, Arthur. Can it wait until..." Arthur said, "Do you know what was backing the Meridian Street loans?" Trevor said, "The family trust." Arthur said, "No, it was her company. And as of 9 o'clock this morning, that collateral has been formally withdrawn." The line was quiet. Trevor said, "Say that again." Arthur said again, slowly, in the precise and careful language of a man who has spent 29 years ensuring that the people he represents understand exactly what the documents say. Trevor came to the office. The bank review was triggered within 48 hours. The Meridian Street property, the Whitmore family's most significant commercial asset, the one Lorraine had referenced at 3 separate family dinners as the cornerstone of the next generation's inheritance, was placed under formal review pending collateral reassessment. 2 additional properties flagged in the same process. The family's attorneys worked through the weekend. The documents were exactly what they were. There was no gap to find. There was nothing to challenge. Naomi had written the instrument herself. She had had 3 attorneys review it. She had filed it correctly and maintained it correctly for 4 years. She had built the exit into the foundation before anyone knew an exit would be needed. Trevor called her 14 times over the following week. She did not answer. Lorraine called once on a Thursday evening. The call lasted 4 seconds before Naomi ended it. She did not call back. 6 weeks after the divorce was finalized, a Dallas Business Journal ran a feature on Skyward Holdings' expansion into international private aviation routes. The journalist asked Naomi about the company's origins, about what it meant to build something of this scale, about how a black woman from Memphis builds a billion-dollar aviation company in an industry that was not designed to receive her. Naomi thought about it for a moment. She thought about her father's retirement account and the repayment schedule she had honored to the dollar. She thought about her mother making order out of limitation at a kitchen table in Memphis. She thought about 41 aircraft in 22 states and a Gulfstream lifting off a Dallas runway on a Tuesday morning, while a family that had never seen her ate lunch and open wine. Then she said, I did not build quietly because I was ashamed of what I had. I built quietly because I already knew how this would end. I just wanted to make sure that when it did, there was nothing left for anyone to take. She looked at the journalist for a moment. Then she smiled. Not the careful smile she had worn at Whitmore family dinners for 4 years. The other one. She went back inside. Arthur Pembroke sat in his office that evening. The Whitmore file was open on his desk. He had worked with his family for 29 years. He had watched their business grow. He had attended their events, filed their documents, protected their interests to the best of his considerable ability. He looked at the collateral instrument on page 47. He looked at the withdrawal notice filed at 9 o'clock that Tuesday morning. He thought about the precision of it, the patience of it, the years of quiet and correct preparation that it represented. He picked up his pen. He wrote 4 words in the margin of the file. She held it all. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who is building quietly right now and needs to know it is enough. And tell me in the comments, who do you think made the bigger mistake, Trevor or his mother Lorraine? I will see you in the next story.